everyone. Welcome back to Data Movers, the digital future, Data Movers 2.0. I'm Candace Sipos with JSA, and I am joined by Maxie Reynolds, CEO and founder of Subsea Cloud. Welcome back, Maxie. Tell us about what you're reading lately.
So I've been on a little bit of a novel kick because my brain will not let me read anything that's more useful. So I read, have you heard of the book Flowers for Algernon?
Yeah.
Daniel Keyes, I think. Oh my God, it was brutal. I didn't think, I was like, I'll never love again. Like, I'm not going to recover from this. So I read that, and then I had to watch Harry Potter to like bring myself up again. That's literally it. So I'm a child, essentially. I've become a child. In our time apart, I have regressed. But so nothing useful.
But yeah, no, I am watching a few things right now. Paradise with Sterling K. Brown. I'll watch him in anything. And then Apple Cider Vinegar with Caitlin Dever, who's like one of my favorite actresses right now. She's so good. She's getting a lot of praise actually for her Australian accent because it's based on a real Aussie. So, that's one of the hardest accents, I think, especially for Americans to do. So
Jim Carrey done it really well in Dumb and Dumber. He's like, let's pop another shrimp on the barbie. That's like, what's iconic. Okay, what I'm gonna do is not let people think that I'm a teenager anymore. Flowers for Algernon, Harry Potter, and Jim Carrey impressions. I think we should move on.
I think you're hitting all the key points. Yeah, no, I love it.
And then what was the other thing?
The Pit is really good. I think it's Hulu or Max, I'm not sure, but it's like an actually realistic portrayal of an emergency room in the US.
Ooh.
It doesn't sound great, but it actually is really good. And
do you get to see things like bleed and be? Do you get to actually see? No,
you do. Yeah, you do. It's pretty graphic. Yeah, so you have to really be prepared for it. So anyway, yes,
let's. Because now I feel queasy.
Yeah, we gotta move on for multiple reasons. Okay, so we're gonna dive into. I'm super excited about this episode. I know I say that every single time, but this one is really special because we're talking about what will digital infrastructure careers look like in 10 years, which, let's be honest, I don't think anybody has the perfect answer to this, but it's really fun to hypothesize and chat through, just some different ideas floating around about what could be the answer to that. So how are the industry's titles going to shift? What are the new career paths that students should be preparing for now? And of course, we all really just want to know, when are the robots going to take over? When are we all going to be redundant? So it's hard to find stats on what careers will look like in 10 years, but we do have a few that I think you'll read here, Maxie, about at least what it looks like now.
Yeah. So stats are how I like to prove I'm right. So it's very difficult for me when there's no proof of that. Like, we can't see, the line of sight is not good on this, although I will say I'm a sort of techno optimist on this. So that aside, the stats that we have are: the Uptime Institute predicted that data center staff requirements would grow 15% from 2019 to 2025, up 2.3 million full-time employees. The increase in demand is mostly driven by like cloud and co-location data centers. And between 2017 and 2021, the data center employment actually jumped 17%. And then SD times Central, is that how we say it? Do we think?
I always say XDX Central, but now that you say that.
SDX Central. No, that could be that. SDX Central. Okay. So SDX Central named a few hot data center jobs for 2024, including data center infrastructure engineer, enterprise data center network architect, and then data center IT operations manager. And do you think that's representative of today?
Yeah, the stat about data center employment jumping 17%, I feel like is actually low. Like, it feels like it should be higher to me. Yeah. It's an old stat now, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what that ends up being through 2025.
It will be. But yeah, we just don't have a strong line of sight on this. But I remain optimistic on the overall like trajectory. But yeah, the stats, we can't forecast well. I don't think on this. It's changing too rapidly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see what the panelists say.
Let's bring in the panel. Yeah. Okay. So we have an amazing panel to introduce you all to today. So first up, we've got Jack Backus, who's principal strategist at Provident Data Centers, a friend of JSA TV. You'll look him up, his various interviews on JSA TV. But Jack, as a way of introduction, could you just tell us a little bit about how you ended up in this industry? What brought you to digital infrastructure?
Well, first thing I want to say is, Maxie, if you like uplift stories,
Ooh.
Children of Time series by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Have you ever
No.
read that series? You're gonna love it.
Okay.
You're gonna absolutely. It's gonna be your favorite.
Is this a trick where I'm not gonna love it and I'm gonna cry, or am I going to? Okay, then I'll
No,
read it.
you're legit gonna love it. Well, I mean, you might cry. There's some touching moments, but
Okay,
but it's good, solid, like very touching story, but also hard science fiction about and Adrian Tchaikovsky. He was a biologist, and he was a biologist who became a lawyer, who became a writer. He's a British writer, and he's got if that's the kind of story that you like, I think he's probably the best author out there today, writing today in that space.
Okay.
So anyway, you can. I've got like 100 science fiction, the novel light read things I can send you, but he's the number one.
Let's cross-reference on LinkedIn for sure, because it's a genre I'm into. Okay, fine. Sorry.
All right. So, but yeah, this is going to be a podcast about book reviews. So how I got in, so I spent 8 years in data center infrastructure at LinkedIn before left LinkedIn in end of 2023. Did an AI startup. Was focused on retrieval augmented generation RAG architectures, and then parted ways with the founder, with the co-founder of that, and then came to Provident to head up strategy for the data center business. Provident's been around for 41 years as a multi-platform developer. And so I like to say we did our first data center in 1999, and then we had about 20 years in between. And then now we are back in the data center business with sites across the United States, really focusing on high power density land sites and grid constrained environments. I don't know if I answered your question, though. I kind of forgot your question.
No, that's perfect. I have another one to throw at you, which is a slightly more difficult one. What one word comes to mind when you think about careers in this industry in 10 years?
Change. I mean, depth, being able to traverse multiple subjects. So data centers, so digital infrastructure kind of is a catch-all for a lot of things, but like specifically if we're talking about data centers, it's really great for your polymath kind of person who's really into lots of different subjects and wants to get into a lot of depth across many disciplines, because data centers are this place where electrical engineering, software engineering, networking, structural engineering, civil engineering, even mechanical and environmental engineering all sort of come together into one space. Even now in 2025, you're getting into data center providers looking at supplementing with nuclear power, right, with the small modular reactors. And so that gets into a whole new subject. And it's really this opportunity for a broader range of subjects to engage in. Some of the best guys in the data center business, people in the data center business, were the Navy nuke guys, the ones who worked on nuclear reactors and submarines, because they have a lot of experience across these different disciplines. Great thing about data center industry is that also it's a good pipeline into the tech industry, because there's a lot of warehouse type work that happens as well. You have to take a server off a rack, put it back on a rack, track the inventory. If you're really working in data center operations, there's a lot of that kind of work.
Yeah.
I think that same stat you mentioned from I forget where it was from iMasons, maybe, of, we're going to need 300,000. We've blown that out of the water, because there is so much data center construction activity now that they projected this steady growth. But now, that was before. I mean, ChatGPT was released in, I want to say, November of
Yeah, it was a few
2022.
years ago.
Yeah, just like 2022. So that didn't even include this AI training and inference growth that needs to happen. So if I'm 18 right now and I'm looking at an industry to get into, I think anything around data centers, or just like the whole American industry onshoring movement, like that's where my head would be. Like hard moving, uh, what is it? Moving atoms, not bytes, kind of hard engineering work is where I'd be focused.
Deep tech, essentially. I
Yeah.
agree with you in that the line of sight is sort of often off. We can't see around corners, and the data center industry is sort of far-reaching tentacles vertically and horizontally. So I totally agree. Next, though, we do have Vanessa Kennedy. She's Vice President of Development for Stack Infrastructure. Vanessa, it's nice to see you again. It's been a few months, I think, since I've seen you. So
Yeah, absolutely.
How have you been? Are you good?
Very well. Yeah. Flowers
Yeah,
for Algernon holds a special place in my heart, I have to
a
admit.
special. No, I'm like stamping it out. I don't want it. It was so sad, but so well written, like exceptionally written to hold
It was
up to
required reading in the US.
Was it?
Mhm.
That's so cruel.
We all cried in class. It was terrible.
A happy book. So sorry, I digress. Vanessa, let's start with kind of what brought you into the digital infrastructure industry. How did you get here?
Honestly, it was right place, right time. I was living in Northern Virginia, working for a commercial real estate investment trust, and I happened to be in the office that took on some of the early build-to-suit shells in the Northern Virginia market.
Yeah.
And my bosses at the time just asked if I'd want to join their team. We didn't really know what that meant. We didn't know what it was at the time until it grew into the beast that it became. And this is long before Data Center Alley existed. So it was really just timing, and I loved it. I loved the pace of work, speed to market, everything about it.
And it's not really changed, right? The speed to market, the
not at all
change. It keeps going.
It's getting worse.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Then, so if you can, in one word, then what comes to mind when you think about just careers in this industry in sort of 10 years?
Adaptability, and layering on to what Jack said about depth, really taking what you've learned and understanding that it's going to change and almost on a daily basis, and how to pivot to react to that. That's really what we've all had to do in our careers. I think if you talk to anyone in the data center industry, there are very few that really started day one in that industry. They all came out of another industry to serve a need in the market. And I think as it evolves, in the next 10 years, we're all going to have to do the same thing.
Yeah. I wonder how many industries that's true for, though, that you sort of haphazardly end up there. There's a few, I guess, you go to school for, like law, I guess. But like how many people just ended up as CPA? Probably not that many, but how many people ended up in the data center business or cybersecurity? Like the inroads, or there's so many. So it is interesting to think about. Anyway, we have another guest.
Yes, third, last but not least, Dr. David Snelling, who is recently retired and very exciting, but was the director of advanced compute for Fujitsu. Welcome.
Hello, welcome. Glad to be here. So first of all, I know what your first questions are. It's going to be an introduction to me. How I got here was I had been in Fujitsu for about 20 years at this point, where we were looking at what was called cloud grid computing. It's that thing that came before cloud computing, that was shared access to centralized infrastructures using advanced networking, but it was before virtualization. And then all of a sudden, cloud computing started to creep up, and we would start to think, what area of research is going to become more important? And obviously, energy infrastructure for data centers was the topic of research that I landed on. And so it was through looking for energy efficient operations, trying to reduce PUE in data centers, how to operate the data center in such a way that you could reduce its reliance on energy, as well as reliance on fresh water, atmospheric conditions, environmental cooling and so forth. So that's where I got stuck into this space. There was an organization that existed at the time called the Green Grid. And I spent a lot of time working with the Green Grid. I was their VP of technology for a while. And so that's how I got there. And I didn't stay there that long. So I've been on to other things, hence the quantum computing chip in my background. So I moved on to something else. And so I'm here sort of to give a little bit of insight into quantum, if that's what you'd like.
Oh, yeah.
Very much so. Yes, we're excited for that. And so what one word comes to mind when you think about careers in this industry in 10 years?
The one word is easy. It's dynamic, but it's basically the same thing that Jack and Vanessa just absolutely nailed. And later on, we'll talk a little bit more about it. But that ability to be adaptable is absolutely critical, because you don't actually know what it is that you'll be doing until you walk in the front door in the morning. And that is what I think makes this whole domain really appealing.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, now
Yes.
we all have to do our literature review. So my recommended reading will come from the nonfiction side, I'm afraid. If you want to know about quantum computing, the thing to read, and you're from the baseline, is Computing with Quantum Cats by Giddens.
I heard that.
It's a lovely book. He tells the story of computing, the story of quantum mechanics, and the story of quantum computing. And he does it from a lightweight mathematics, but some, and a very much a people-oriented kind of story. So it's a good book. Computing with Quantum Computing.
Right. It's very good. Thank you. We
have the local book club.
Yeah, we should start one.
No, we are bringing everyone together now.
Oh, we are?
Yes.
I am behind. Wait, did we do the one word? Yeah, we did do the one word. Yeah, you just didn't see it, so it didn't hit my brain. Listen, I am undercaffeinated and underconfident today.
That's unacceptable, Maxie, to be undercaffeinated ever.
I totally agree. I
think we did the one word, but I think I gave you many more than one word.
It's hard.
It is hard. It is really hard. Okay, so we have everyone back together. So then, given that you just admitted to a few more than one words, I'll start with you, Jack, succinctly. What is the biggest shift that you're expecting in terms of career and workforce?
AI and robotics.
Yeah.
AI, robotics, onshoring.
That's three things.
Changes in immigration policy. Like those are the things that I succinctly. I think that's as succinct as I can get it.
Are you sort of optimist on this, pessimist? Are you defensively pessimistic? Are you a techno realist on this? Where do you sort of sit in attitude?
I mean, so my hope about AI, I'm an AI optimist in terms of, I think that we haven't even started to see what's going to happen from the industry. That I think people are very cautious because they're thinking about Bitcoin, they're thinking about Web 1.0, they're thinking about other times. I think this is different. My sort of techno-realist perspective is really about how AI integrates into the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to, this is where I like what Sam Altman says about how it's really less about, you need to shift from this idea that you're replacing a person to this idea that you are augmenting the capabilities of a person. And I think that we're going to see that a lot. I mean, throughout digital infrastructure.
Excellent. I agree. I do. Candice?
Yes, but Vanessa, Dr. Snelling, you want to bounce off of that?
I'm actually going to take a slightly different approach and take it out of this sort of innovation and technology. And I think we're going to see a return to soft skills and really getting back to human connection, because we are moving in this direction with technology, that our workforce is actually going to have to step back and rekindle those human connections to drive this innovation forward.
Do you think it's sort of EQ based then?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot more of that pulling in to counteract what we're doing on the technology front.
I think there's some truth to that too, for sure. Yeah.
I'll pull you back into the technology just a little bit, because one of the things that's implicit and actually apparent in the growth of the AI is that during the early and even fairly recently, the whole idea of a cloud data center was that it was very, very uniform, very homogeneous. That boat has sailed now. The amount and variety of different kinds of physical hardware to solve particular types of applications is becoming much more evident. And so even in large homogeneous data centers, there's going to be a great more heterogeneous structure. And that's before we bring in quantum in a few years' time.
Do you think quantum's just a few years away?
There are quantum companies already operating within operational data centers. Now, their clients are not using them for end of use business applications. They're using them to do the research and development for when that becomes a real thing. But people are putting quantum computers into data centers in order to get high performance access to secure data without having to use the internet, et cetera. It's all the things you want from a high quality data center environment. So it's here today.
If we assume, and I think it's true, that quantum computing can then sort of break the hash system, so we don't have the same security that we rely on today, is quantum computing then the answer to that too?
I think less so. I think classical approaches reapplied will still be the way we do our security. It won't be with the RSA public key infrastructure anymore. That will have to change. But not that's less urgent than some of the other. I think quantum computing will show a return on investment long before it cracks open the internet as it exists today.
So I guess you've kind of touched upon what's changing in the industry in terms of like, it's, if I'm understanding you correctly, you don't think it's commoditized anymore. There's been a departure from that, and it's less homogeneous throughout the ecosystem. So
we'll still be selling it as homogeneous as possible, but but the number of options you have to throw switches that then have to be rendered in native hardware, because you can't just pretend that an Intel is a gigantic GPU anymore.
Got it. Okay, so then let's sort of juxtapose. So that's kind of what is changing, where you think it's going. What do you think is not going to change? And then specifically when it comes to sort of industry careers, do you have any thoughts on that?
I'll start with the first one, then let people answer around and do the second one. The first thing that's not changing is the importance of efficiency, both operational in terms of the way in which the systems are used, but also in terms of the environmental impact of the buildings in which they sit and most of it. So that will stay there. I think the other thing that we have to constantly keep in mind is that regulation is not going away. It feels like the whole place is becoming a wild, wild west out there at the moment. And this is one place where economically we can't afford for that to happen. So there will still be this essence of regulation and management that goes around it. I'll be interested to see what the others say, though.
I was going to work off of what Jack had talked about with his depth of the workforce, and that is not going to change. In fact, it's probably even going to increase as more and more components come together to build this new AI machine and work towards the nuclear component. So that depth is just going to get bigger of different feeding industries into the data center industry. And I think we're already seeing that exodus from some to join this because they do see the lucrative career potential.
Yeah, totally agree. actually.
Dr. Snelling, did you see the board that Microsoft released? I think it was yesterday or the day before. What do you think about that? And I'm actually real curious about so AI has these big power requirements and specialized requirements around the power profile and then and the networking requirements and all of that. As quantum gets commercialized, are you going to see the same thing?
Well, one of the things that I do remember when we first started trying to deal with what was called quantum inspired at the time, we picked on quantum computers that were real as being very expensive, and you had to have this giant refrigerator. But in the long run, in terms of things like energy efficiency, quantum computing will be much more energy efficient than today's silicon technology when it reaches maturity. The very fact that in order for they chill these quantum computers down to near absolute zero, and as soon as there's any heat, it loses its environment and it can no longer be a computer at quantum. So by definition, it cannot have any waste heat. So by definition, quantum computing is very highly energy efficient. Everything else around it is a bit costly, microwave generators and evaporation coolers and so forth. So, but that's part of what feeds into this heterogeneity within the data center infrastructure. Because to run a quantum computer, you don't just do the usual stuff that you do. You get to do other stuff. You get liquid helium and liquid nitrogen instead of just nitrogen fire suppression gas. So it's the same stuff, but in a deeper kind of universe.
So to shift it just a little bit, I'm curious for any younger folks who, maybe in high school or college or even younger, what should students prepare for now? What are the kind of new or yet to emerge career paths that people should be preparing for? Anyone want to take that one?
Anyone?
So since I'm the loquacious one, what I would say is I was talking to an Uber driver, and he was like, I really am interested in data centers and how do I get into it? And he was telling me about he has warehouse experience and so I think that the data center in particular provides this hybrid environment where somebody who is coming in with related skills can sort of find their way into the tech industry. I think it's a great pipeline. If you look at organizations like iMasons or the International Data Center Authority that have certifications, that have talent programs, those are great ways to get engaged and learn about what those requirements are. The other thing that I would highlight is SMU's Data Center Systems Engineering Master's degree. So that's really for somebody who's coming from a tertiary and tertiary role who really wants to focus in on data center engineering and design.
Yeah. Exciting. Anyone else?
I was just going to say, be curious.
Yeah.
I have found that the people that have been most successful in data center careers have been curious. They know they're vulnerable. They know what they don't know, and they're willing to ask and educate themselves. And they've really excelled in this space.
Yeah,
I would echo that flexibility. In terms of courses, I'd say whatever you do, don't drop your math class. Okay.
Yeah.
And you should probably take shop if this is an area that interests you, because at the bottom of it, even if you are not ever on the computer floor, understanding just the basic things, the physical things that you have to do in order to make things work is hugely valuable, even if you never actually leave the computer terminal. And so mathematics and shop class, that's definitely the things you should stay in touch with.
Are you saying shop class?
Yeah, shop. Where you take the drill press and you make things and you work with your hands and in the physical world.
Oh, I think we called that tech, and the teacher was always drunk. Like that is the one. Yeah. That is the one course in which the teacher just came in and sat down and was like, drills. teenagers, go for it.
That sounds
Yeah.
about
In
right.
Scotland.
That sounds about
That's what
right.
it is.
Yeah.
Our drafting
There
teacher
was-
wasn't too
It
far
was
off of
called
that either.
shop in my era, but that was a very long time ago.
Actually, that should be what I get into. Okay.
All right, so rolling right off of that. So this is a super existential question. So I feel bad even asking you to answer this in a short, concise way. But the question is, what makes you excited about having a career in digital infrastructure right now? And then the kind of reverse side of that, is there anything that keeps you up at night about this industry? That's impossible to answer succinctly. But shall we start with Jack?
Let's.
Oh yeah, let's take the guy
Yeah.
who can't answer anything succinctly.
Yeah.
So what keeps me up at night is missing, sort of like missing where the action is or missing where the opportunity is. And then because I mean, I'm in the business of thinking where things are going, right? And everything's moving at such a clip. There's so much information. There's so many digital infrastructure is sort of like where everything converges. And there's some big things that you need to be right about. And then there's a lot of noise too. There's a lot of, we call them like fake data centers, right? Somebody announcing something. And then it's like, but they're not actually going to make it happen. And being able to weed out who kind of the real actors are versus the ones who are kind of tagging along and making noise. And I think when you're looking at the industry, just making sure you're getting information from good sources, from people who actually know what they're talking about. One of the things about AI is that it can kind of make anybody sound like they know what they're talking about. And if you're using, and that's just going to get better and better and better. It's on kind of like an upward trajectory. And so just looking at like, what have people done? If you're listening to them, like, have they actually built anything?
Yeah.
Have they actually are they kind of, what's their history? Is going to be a lot more important for knowing just what your sources of information are.
I agree.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Vanessa, Dr. Snelling, either way you want to take that question, if you want to talk about what keeps you up at night or just simply what makes you excited to be here right now.
For me, I'm not complacent. I love to continue learning, and every day I learn something new. I've learned more about power in the last 3 years than I ever thought I would learn. And that's also what keeps me up at night. I would say power strategies, working with the utilities, working on generation, the strategy to enable our data centers. I think that's probably the thing that causes the most lack of sleep.
Yeah.
No, it's easy for me I can be quite succinct. The thing that excites me is the stuff behind me, this quantum computing stuff, the what's coming next. It's always been what's coming next, and that happens to be at the moment the quantum computing. And what keeps me up at night, the hint is there, that little tiny word at the end of my title, retired. Nothing keeps me up at night. I'm fine. Just fine.
Sleep like a baby. I like that.
We've caught you at a good time for this recording.
I haven't gone crazy yet, but I still have this worry that I'll get stupidly bored, but that hasn't happened.
Yeah, but it's not happened yet. Excellent.
Not yet.
Oh,
But I got things like this I keep doing, so maybe.
Yeah, okay. So retirement, but
no.
yeah.
Everyone invite Dr. Snelling on your podcast.
Yeah, no, you're
Yeah.
All right. So this is arguably the most fun portion, our rapid fire. We've only got 7 minutes left. Do you want to take it away, Maxie?
I do. I'll go around the horn. We'll start with Vanessa. And basically, I'm going to ask everyone to try and give an answer in about 15 seconds or less. And I'll give you the questions one by one, and I'll repeat for each of you. So, Vanessa, what is your top piece of career advice for high schoolers and college students?
I kind of talked on it a little bit earlier, but be willing to learn.
Yeah.
Be curious, ask questions, and just don't be arrogant. Drop the arrogance.
Yeah. Do you sort of feel that after high school and college, you're kind of not encouraged to ask those questions? Because it seems just like obvious, but I guess
it seems obvious, but people don't do it, and they pretend to know what they don't know, and then and you can see through that very quickly.
Very hard words to say. I don't know. I totally agree. I struggle. Okay, what personality trait do you look for most in candidates? you're hiring?
Integrity and drive.
How do you sort of see that? How do you look for that?
I ask questions about their previous experience, and
Yeah.
usually you can glean from the answers
Yeah. Okay.
that they're not being truthful. It's either in their body language or the how they dance around it,
Okay.
and it really shines through.
All right. And then I think probably my favorite question: if you could instantly master a new business skill right now, what would it be?
Finance.
Finance, yes, same. I'm so intimidated by it.
I am too.
Totally
And
agree. Yeah, and we shouldn't be. Then shall we go to who actually should we go to? Let's go to Jack. What is your top piece of career advice for high schoolers and college students?
Throw yourself in where the action is and be making things, demonstrable things that you've made and gotten out
Totally.
into the world.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Even if do you mean just in terms of like solving a problem, or just if it's a hobby, like basically execute on whatever it is that you're thinking about? Is that the message?
Yeah, I mean, having great ideas is great, but
Yeah.
you need to manifest those, turn them into a thing,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
that, to me, well, that'll be my answer to the next question.
Okay. So then, the suspense. What personality trait do you look for most in candidates?
Seriousness of purpose and evidence of results.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. And when you say like evidence of results, it's not just resume. You're not just looking at the soft skills.
People can write
Obviously.
anything on a resume. What I want to
Yes.
know is, what did you do?
Okay. Okay.
And what did you bring into the world?
Okay. I like it. Okay. And then third, final question. If you could instantly master a new business skill, what would it be?
I think it would be kind of the Andreessen Horowitz founder mode
Yeah.
mentality of
Set skills. Yeah.
it pulls together a lot of things,
Yeah.
but that's going to be, AI is going to do a lot to enable somebody who is an effective creator.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are you on the Horowitz or Andreessen side, or do you sort of respect them both equally?
No, I mean, I think probably, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
I don't I don't really know. I like the American dynamism thesis that's coming
Yeah.
out of their group, and
Yeah. I agree.
that's going to take. I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, if you were born in, what is it now, 2007? It's a great time for you.
I I think I was. Yeah, I don't want to talk about how old I was.
That would make you 18 now. Like, you're coming out in the world. There's a lot of
Just getting
opportunity for
there.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can see it, for sure. All right, Dr. David Snelling. Same
Yeah.
question to you. Your top piece of career advice for high schoolers and college students.
Yeah, so the main one is that know yourself enough to know whether you're one of those people that can do whatever comes next,
Yeah.
or if you need to have a single focus, and understand in yourself which one of those it is, and then go that way. For data center infrastructure, the former is probably a little more realistic in terms of it. But if you're going to do finance, by all means, just then know yourself on the focus.
Sage advice, I wish someone had said that to me, actually. And I still don't know.
I'd say that the anti-advice that I would give, like, do not do this. Do not do in college what they told me and so many of my friends, which is like, take all the courses, just figure things out. It's like, pick a thing, stick with it, like, bring it to fruition. Yes, take advantage of opportunities as they arise, but like, have something you're good at.
Yeah, for sure. Back to you, David.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all right. I mean, I think it's good for them to hear. But what personality trait then do you look for in most candidates?
So what I would do is I would look for a notion of resilience, because you want things are going to change around them, and you want to know if they can come back to it.
Yeah, interesting. I like that. Okay, if you could instantly master a new business skill, what would it be?
Now, the hard way to say this is I want to figure out, I would be able to know how to take the current cutting edge explosion in AI and actually know the best way to use it. So starting tomorrow, I would say I'd be an expert in agentic AI, okay, using large language models. And then at least for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'd know what I was doing.
So over the time, you're not looking for a long line of sight, like AI in 5 years. You're like, AI today, what's the most like high output thing I can do with it?
Well, you asked what I would learn if I could learn something overnight. And
Yeah.
the thing that would be most useful is to be an absolute expert in that for the next couple of months. And then after that, it might, it's going to be something different. Absolutely. It's going to be something different.
For sure. All right. Thank you. That was great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I love just being in the background and listening to all of those answers because I'm like plotting. I'm like, oh, that's a
World domination.
Candace is like looking up jobs,
Yes.
It's like, how do I get into data center engineering?
I hope I love JSA. We'll be at JSA, but what I should be learning, next, and what is coming down the pike in our industry that I should be aware of is it's brilliant. And thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. So we are sadly wrapping up. Oh, we're 1 minute behind, so I'll do this quickly. So thank you to all of our guests for joining us, and our viewers and listeners, of course, for hanging out with us for another episode of Data Movers 2.0. Check out jsa.net/JSA-TV, and our YouTube channel is Jamie Scotto TV for all of the episodes. And find us, all of us who you're seeing here, on LinkedIn to connect further, talk about flowers for Algernon, talk about AI. We love these things equally, unless you're Maxie and you love one more than the other. And we will see you all again for the next episode. Thank you.